conversation, talk about anything we've talked about in the news over the past week. They say that patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. In other words, you've got somebody who's a scoundrel. The last thing he's going to try to do out of desperation is wrap himself in the flag and challenge you to do your patriotic duty and support whatever his agenda is. It's kind of like Mark Pryor from Arkansas wrapping himself in the Bible. It's a sign of desperation. He wouldn't dream of doing an ad like that if he wasn't about ready to sink under the waves. He's just trying to save himself. And the Bible is a life preserver to him. It's a political mascot that he hopes he can hang on to and salvage what's left of his political career. Well, I'm going to predict that President Obama, remember, he got agitated with young people. You've got to understand something here. He's trying to get their attention. You're not getting the picture. Collective action is where it's at. Collective action is the wave of the future. You've got to get that through your thick skulls, you young millennials that aren't getting the picture here, that want to check out of Obamacare. You've got to understand we've got to engage in collective action. That's just a code word for socialism. Well, it's not working. And George Will says, look, the only two ways that millennials are going to sign up for Obamacare is either out of utter ignorance because they just don't know any better, or out of altruism. Altruism is you're thinking of the other guy. You're doing it for the other guy. Well, I think President Obama, it's not going to be long before President Obama is going to start trying to guilt millennials into buying insurance that they don't need and can't afford by appealing to their patriotism. You've got to do it for America. Your country needs you. America needs you. America needs Obamacare. You're the key. Do your patriotic duty and go, and bankrupt yourself to buy insurance through Obamacare. So I see that coming, him appealing and guilt-tripping millennials into buying insurance simply through patriotism. All right, let's go back to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's go to David. David, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
Earlier in the week, I heard you talking about abortion. I heard you talking about Obamacare. And the King James Version of the Bible calls the shedding of innocent blood an abomination. Obamacare is planning on paying for abortions, which is the shedding of innocent blood, which God calls an abomination. Obamacare should be called abomination care due to what the Bible says. Why doesn't the Bill of Rights cover the unborn? Dogs have more rights than unborn humans. The Humane Society cares about animal life, but cares nothing about unborn humans. They should change their name to Animal Society instead of Humane Society.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, very good, David. And we had that story yesterday. Dave was exactly right. Unborn babies basically have no constitutional rights in America since 1917. I mean, they have constitutional rights. It's just that the Supreme Court took them away in the Roe v. Wade decision. We saw there's a movement now on the part of the, quote, Humane Society, end quote, which David says is a misnomer, to give rights to chimpanzees and pygmies and apes. So they're out actively to give more legal rights to apes than to unborn babies. All right, James, Midway Park, North Carolina. James, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good afternoon. Number one, those millennials, most of them don't have jobs. Some of them are still in school. Some of them are trying to get into community colleges and so on.
And they're weighed down like with an average of $35,000 in student debt. And why is that? Because President Obama is shoving money at them to borrow money to go to school.
Yeah, and who is that who's speaking of him in glowing terms that should only be reserved for Jesus Christ, talking about he come and he walked among us.
Isn't that something?
It sounds like the people who've been waiting for Satan's baby boy who will soon become the Antichrist.
Yeah, it almost has a cultish feel to it, doesn't it,
Of course it
James?
is.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they belong to those occults like the Skull and Bones and all that garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, James, listen, I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Let's go to Manny, College Station, Texas. Manny, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Hey, it's great to talk to you, man. I listen to your program a lot.
Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. I enjoy it every day. I'll try to listen to it when I can in my truck. But I just wanted to make a comment about the president. It seems like, and I'm glad you're talking about it today, just, nobody's holding him accountable to anything. I mean, he does what he wants. He makes the decisions, and he does it. And you take all the scandals he's been going through, and nobody calls him on it. So when you got a person like that nobody's challenging him, whether it's Congress or senators, anybody, then he just continues to do what he wants. There's no accountability on his part.
Yeah.
And so, and it's really sad and unfortunate. That's what we see going on today.
Yeah.
And but I wish there was something more that at least somebody would stand up and challenge him and get back to the Constitution and things that made this country great. So I just want to make that comment. All right.
All right, Manny. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. That's the job. This accountability. That's part of the job of the government. I mean, the press. That's the job of the press to probe and to investigate and to ask questions and to provide some accountability. That's why you have specific protections for freedom of the press in the First Amendment. You have the free exercise of religion is protected because our founders understood how critical it was that American citizens be able to freely exercise their religion 168 hours a week. So if you're Hobby Lobby and you run a business according to Christian principles, that's protected by the Constitution. The government cannot step in there and take away your right to freely exercise your religion in the way you run your business. That's what President Obama and ObamaCare is trying to do with this abortion mandate. The owner of Hobby Lobby, he's an individual. The Constitution guarantees him as an individual the right to the free exercise of religion, including weaving religious principles into the way he runs his business. So religious liberty, profoundly important right in America. The freedom of the press was also profoundly important, and you can understand why you had to protect that right from government, because people in government do not like the press writing critical things about them. And there's been a tendency since day one for government to silence the press, to silence voices of criticism, to shut them down, because they understood that that the job of the press is this accountability mechanism. Well, now you've got a situation where the left-wing media, and James pointed this out about kind of this cult-like adoration that the left-wing media has for President Obama. He came amongst us. Well, they're no longer in any kind of adversarial role. They're just lapdogs. It's the poodle media for liberals in political world, and so there's no accountability. People aren't holding them accountable, and I think that's one of the reasons, why you listen to AFR Talk. We talked about how CNN and MSNBC, they've lost half of their viewing audience in the last year, gone out of here in the archives, history, because people just don't trust them. And they think, something hinky is going on here. I'm not sure I believe what these people on CNN are telling me about Obamacare. I'm not sure that I can believe what these people on MSNBC are telling me about Obamacare. So I'm going to look for some outlet that I think is going to be a little more honest and show more integrity. And that's why they go to places like Fox News. They go to conservative talk radio like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin. Why you listen to AFR Talk, because this is a place, a source of information that you can trust. Let's go to Ray. Ray, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind? Ray, are you?
Right.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, long-time listener. Wondering about what we can do about Congress, right?
Yeah.
And Obama?
Mm-hmm.
I got the answer, I think.
Okay, hit me.
The establishment or the administration is taking out our generals and putting them in retirement, right?
Yeah, there's been a purge. 197 officers have been purged from the military by this administration, by this commander-in-chief.
If you were the enemy of this nation, wouldn't that be comforting that our enemy has, no structure for their tactics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean,
And
that's what you would want to do. You would want to weaken our military because that's the part of our country that's charged with protecting our national security. So you would deliberately set out to emasculate, weaken, eviscerate, gut our military.
Right. That's comforting to our enemy.
Right.
We're over there paying the Muslim Brotherhood to take care of what Benghazi or whatever else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know how.
How did we just lose Ray? Okay, sorry, Ray, we just lost you. By the way, speaking of Benghazi, you might have seen this. Another American cut down in cold blood in Benghazi, very likely by Muslim activists. One last soundbite. Let's wedge this in. Nancy Pelosi, clip number 10, Emily. No, scrap that. Let's go to clip number 11. I want to get clip number 11. This is a clip from Dr. Bill Grace. He's the founder of Grace Oncology in New York City. And he's talking here in this soundbite about the chaos that Obamacare is creating for doctors. Let's listen.
There's a lot of confusion. What you have is all this information is coming in incomplete, incorrect. And so they're not able to make an economic statement by saying, how much should someone pay? We're not getting the subsidies from the government. I mean, this is if you thought the front end was chaos, now you're getting to the back end, and soon we will get to the back end, which is the physician end. But right now, that back end is in chaos.
The back end, just to qualify that. Okay, so the physician has to know that the insurance is there.
That's right.
And if the insurance is not clear through this so-called 834, we'll just call it the back-end accounting, then it's no-go. So you can go to your doctor's office, and you can say, whoop-de-doo, and I got insurance to pay for it, and they'll go and see nothing will be there.
That's right. And on top of that, we don't even know whether we should sign up for these accounts because we have a suspicion that many of these plans offer very little reimbursement or offer only a loss to the physicians who are going to see these patients. And no physician wants to take money out of his pocket and put it in the government.
You know, and he's exactly right. Part of funding Obamacare trims Medicare Advantage by $156 billion. People are already starting to feel that. Reduce the payment rate for Medicaid. In fact, he says if you spend an hour and 15 minutes with a cancer patient, you get $6.50 for Medicaid. That's the Medicaid reimbursement for a cancer patient for an hour and 15-minute visit. $6.50. He said that won't even keep the lights on. So we got a huge problem. Chaos is not too strong a word. Well, have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a blessing to steady you, settle your heart rate. The God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you. Bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap. Never forget, we're fighting a winnable war. God bless you. See you Monday.
The views